Hey guys, welcome to the Horton Digital Podcast, the show that's all about creating more opportunities in life and business through the digital world. Today we have a special guest in the Australian fitness space, Jarrod Miller. He is the founder of Purpose Fitness, Purpose Nutrition and Alchemist Nutrition. Jarrod, it's good to have you on the show today, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how your journey in the fitness industry got started.
Yeah, so obviously born and bred, I'm Australian, originally a country boy from country New South Wales. I guess I really got started in the space. I've always been involved in sport from a young age. I've done soccer up to the young ages of about 14, 15. Was really good as a swimmer, so I did my summers as a swimmer. And then, kind of moved off after my soccer career into football, rugby union, rugby league, all those kind of things. So I guess I've always been in the background of sport, but coming from a kid that used to love to eat, bodybuilding was something that drew quite naturally with the food side of things, and that really sort of started to take off around about the ages of 15, 16 for myself. So that's something that kind of led it into where I am now, is entering the sport of bodybuilding at the ages of 15, 16, and one thing after another, it just filled a fire in my belly, and I guess the passion found me.
That's awesome. That's cool. Has your philosophy on health and fitness changed over the years?
I wouldn't say my philosophy as such. I guess it comes in two parts. In terms of what I believe and what I'm working towards and what I strive for, in terms of my passion, my purpose, that's never changed. My mission and all that is still the same in terms of that. However, though, in terms of what I used to do to what I do now, in terms of the application of the knowledge, the approach is still the same in the sense that health was always the number one priority. However, though, as everything, we evolve, we become smarter, we learn. So there definitely has been a slight change in the philosophy, and that's just coming from an educational and more scientific backing, so obviously over time.
Yeah, nice. I know you train personal trainers, people looking to get into the fitness industry, be PTs. What advice do you give someone who is just starting out in the fitness industry?
Yeah, so that's something that I do. So we actually are a partnered RTO company with the largest in Australia. I've been with them for about 7 years. So I see people from all walks of life, from entry to experts to clients to athletes. With that, especially in today's industry, with the exposure of social media and the easy access to the industry. Again, coming back to my philosophy and my purpose, it's like, we need to increase the quality. So I guess my advice to anyone is, just really get down to the numbers on, why you're doing something. And, it might seem like a big flashy, lavish, enjoyable, free life that you can live by being a coach or a personal trainer. My number one rule in life has always come back to the point is if you're doing it for money, you'll never ever last in life. So you've got to make sure that you really get down to the numbers on why you're doing something and who you are as an individual. Really get down to finding your purpose in life. I encourage everyone to study it, as health is massive. But in terms of entering it, I see a lot of people entering just to make money and they're not qualifying themselves. So I guess, it comes down to understanding yourself as an individual, really coming down to your core values. And then also stop thinking about yourself in the moments as well. So if you are someone that's going to be entering the space and taking, advantage of people for the purpose of money and fulfilling your lifestyle, then, you really got to take a big look at yourself and understand your values and look at, actually getting qualified, because at the end of the day, you are putting people's health at risk. So, don't just think that the lifestyle is lavish and, it is what social media makes it out to be. Because it's a whole nother game in the industry if you want to be good, or I should say great. Anyone can just be a decent coach, but to be great, it takes a lot of knowledge and a lot of time. So, just really make sure you get in it for the right reasons and understand your end result and what you really want to achieve by doing it.
Yeah, so is that how you set yourself apart and kind of differentiate yourself from the competition, by just learning and building your knowledge?
Yeah, so my core value was always to bridge the gap and improve the fitness industry here in Australia. So, if you compare us to international, if you look at USA in terms of, bodybuilding and bikini athletes, Australia is so far behind. We're not even, worth a blink of an eye. For so many years at the Olympic Games, you looked at the quality of athletes that we produce here in Australia, and we're so far behind, Russia, Germany, USA, China now as well. And that just comes down to, we've got a very different philosophy and adaptation of mindset here in Australia. And you see it more often the deeper you get into it, but we're very, we hold a lot of pride and ego in ourselves here in Australia. It's a culture that we breed. We're not very open to getting help. And that's something that we see quite a bit, is people that refuse to be open-minded and get that help. So, I guess that's a big thing that I wanted to do, was sort of, bridge the gap and elevate the quality and sort of teach people, what it really takes to, get that level and provide that platform. So, yeah, that's something that has definitely separated me from the rest, and that just comes down to my core values and what I believe in.
Yeah, amazing. So what inspired you to get into the world of entrepreneurship?
I've always said it, it's probably definitely my father. From a young age, my parents are still together, thankfully. I was very fortunate in that sense. And they've taught me a lot of life lessons. My dad is a Catholic, and, we followed the teachings of, just being a good person, good values. My father would work extremely hard. That's probably why I work so hard again now. It was taught something from a very young age. Just being around that, kind of mentality and work ethic. They don't stop. They still don't stop when they're 60 years of age. They're incredible. But yeah, my old man would be up at 3 a.m. And we wouldn't see him all the time. And he'll return back when us kids are in bed from a young age. But we had a great life, and my father created that for us. My mum was able to be a stay-at-home mum and be there for us kids until, we were able to grow up and leave the home. And that was all thanks to my father. Obviously, my mother contributed as well. She did her part, but, yeah, that's definitely a big thing, is watching my father run businesses and companies, and just displaying his work ethic. He never forced it onto us, but just being in his presence definitely had the effect, and it taught me a lot of skills and disciplines to take into life.
Yeah, you're definitely lucky to have your parents still together growing up. I know a lot of people these days don't have that. So, yeah, having that strong father figure in your life must have made a big impact on you.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, my father wasn't there all the time. He was working, but us as kids, we appreciated it. My mother definitely, made sure that we knew that, our father did love us. Yeah. But whenever he could be there, he was there. And when we did have those times, we made sure it was quality time as well. Yeah. So that's something that I wouldn't say we took for granted. We always appreciate it, but now coming outside that, we now, in my position now, I now am so thankful for, what I had available, because it is who I am today.
Yeah. So online coaching and social media changed the fitness game. How was the transition for you, going from working in a gym full time to then making that jump to online training?
In terms of transition, it wasn't too hard, you know what I mean? It's always a process of evolution, you know what I mean? So like transferring onto online was like a different game, and same thing, it's like entering the gym, you just don't know what you're doing, and then, you just kind of just navigate, find your way. I guess in terms of a business transition, it's been probably one of the best things ever. We're now able to pivot and make a lot of moves in a lot of directions. And the biggest thing when it comes to being an entrepreneur is you don't sell your time for money. So, it's taking the time of selling your time and, opening lifting the cap of what you can potentially earn or expand into. And that's because you're not selling your time in the gym, 24 hours a day. At the end of the day, as humans, we only have 24 hours in the day. So the thing that separates, entrepreneurs from the rest is because we learn how to make money work for us, and we utilize those 24 hours in the day in order to scale and enter many different pathways to generate that. In a sense. So, that transition was great in terms of an entrepreneurship journey. In terms of, a PT, it's quite an easy transition, but I still do love and enjoy my face-to-face value of clients. And I think it's something that we'll always keep and do need. But like everything, the transition, it's a process of evolution. Same as the gym. Like I said, you don't always go in and it's not going to be the best, and you just keep adapting and keep learning new systems. And again, new technology is always rolling out. So again, you just adapt new things, and it's always a process of evolution. So it's always changing. And again, you never do anything right from the get-go. So,
was it important to have a fairly large social media following to get those first few clients?
I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say it's important. You can have as many followers as you want, and you can still not have as much engagement. I guess it comes down to your ability to be able to translate and persuade your message through the audience. So whether you had 100 followers, but you were very persuasive and you had a very good message and a very clear vision of your message of what you're trying to target, and you could, easily, convey that message to, 60% of your followers. You could easily expose yourself to 60 clients, but you can have 24,000 followers, and you might not know a single art or trait of the sales process, or any form of influence, and that will serve you no good. You might convert 1%, so very small numbers. You know what I mean? So a lot of people get hooked up on, especially now in today's era, followers and likes is not something that we really focus on now. It's more about how much engagement to the follower ratio now with the algorithms. But back in the day, everyone was too busy worried about the the follower scorecards and stuff like that. But you just had to post some funny content and you got some followers. Or some raunchy content and you got some followers. And the people that, and I know it for a fact, the people that had the followers, they didn't always translate to money in their account.
Yeah.
People always got blinded by that, and it was something that I had to remind myself. It's about learning the skill set of being able to sell and persuade your message across to the right audience.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, a lot of people definitely are blinded by the follower count and focus on that more than the engagement, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think now the times are changing where people are learning, I find personally that, it's the last thing we worry about is followers.
Yeah. So you work a ridiculous amount of hours, early starts, late nights. What motivates you to wake up every morning and crush it every day?
My family. So my biggest purpose in life was my number one sort of goal, and the reason sort of why I work so hard was my parents gave me a life that I can never repay them for. They taught me a lot of skills. They gave me a lot of opportunities in life. For example, when I was 13, they gave me the opportunity to travel to Brazil and tour for my soccer career. They gave me everything to try and make it who I am. Unfortunately, my parents went through some hardship in business with some partners. I won't get into the finer details. But as a kid and now coming outside that, they try and hide it the best they can, but I could see it. And it has put them backwards in terms of their retirement. So, my biggest mission was, I always promised my dad from a young age that, when he did work in his partnership, I said, I'll take over this business and I'll run it for you. Unfortunately, he's no longer in that, so I can't take it over. But I always promised him that I'd always take care of him and I'd always be the son that would succeed. I would retire him and give him a good life. I always promised that. So, that was my biggest mission, was to retire my parents. Obviously, entering the space now, that is still my major goal and still one of my biggest reasons why I work so hard. But now I've got my daughter of my own and family of my own. So it's super important for me to, not only, look after the people I care about, but, also provide a great life for my daughter to, one, have a great role model, live a great life and have every opportunity at her fingertips to expose and to give her the best life possible. So, that's another big thing as well.
Yeah, that's inspiring. I think a lot of people these days live for themselves a lot, and that's that kind of family values, and that's kind of missing a lot in society, especially with my generation, your generation.
100%. And I think a lot of people that who look at entrepreneurs think it's all about money, and a lot of the fitness influencers in the game, like I said, a lot of people enter the space for money. And I do speak about money quite a bit, and not selling your time for money and stuff like that. But my core values has always been other people, and that's why I work so hard. You've seen it firsthand. Yeah. I'm always working around the clock for other people, and I'm always doing things for people, and I'd always be the first one to move something out of the way to help someone out. So I think it's just something that I've always been ingrained, and that's been my big thing. So yeah, it's not much about me. It's always about what I can do for other people and what I can do for the industry.
Yeah, amazing. So how do you manage your time running several businesses, being a dad, and still managing to get in the gym and stay in great shape?
I don't. No. I do the best I can. So look, the one thing that I've realized is that I do not work well during the day. So, I get most of my work done at night. So like, for example, now, I've got an energy drink sitting here, ready to do work throughout the night till about probably 2 a.m. in the morning. That's where I'm most efficient because people are asleep and they're not bothering me. During the day, I'm getting interrupted by clients, I'm getting interrupted by emails, by bills, people calling me, sales, staff needing me. So, the biggest things that I do is like in terms of like automation, sales processes, the things that move the needle forward the most is typically when I do it at night time, setting up things that need to move the needle forward. And that way I don't get distracted because no one's awake. And I can just focus clearly with no distractions and there's no deadline. I've got as many hours as I can. It's basically like if you don't get it done, you don't sleep. Sorry, buddy. But I guess, how I manage it is I lay out a diary. I'm very routine and very structured, and organization is king for me. So it's super important for me to, really understand what I've got and set the day up right. So, typically first thing in the morning is I have like an hour from 6 to 7 a.m. Wake up at 5 every day, non-negotiable. So I think it's really king for people who struggle. You need to have a non-negotiable wake-up time because the biggest thing that I've learned in my time, and even work with people in the terms of mental health and fitness, if they don't have a set routine of wake up and bedtime, they will always be out of whack. You know what I mean? We work best. We're like babies, man. We work best on routine and structure. So, having a non-negotiable wake-up time of 5 a.m., that's my time because if I work at 2 a.m., I'm still getting, 3 to 4 hours a night, which is, bare minimum for me that I need. So 5 a.m. non-negotiable wake-up time is what I have. And then typically I see, 1 or 2 clients first thing in the morning, that they're typically my highest paying clients that are always there in person. I'm very limited on that time, but that's 6 to 7 a.m. From 7 a.m. to about 8 a.m., that's my time in the gym. So I train myself. Then I set myself up for the day from 8 to 9, straight into, double checking order fulfillments, making sure all of the ordering process is completed and, what needs to be done for that sort of side of things of the day, or any issues overnight with those kind of things, with online sites and ordering, so forth. From 9 to 12 is one of the biggest windows, and that's what I call high leverage activities. So high leverage activities is the 4 biggest pillars of a business as an entrepreneur or a CEO that we must focus on. So, I always give 2 to 3 hours of solid work ethic to those 4% of tasks that are most important as a CEO. And that can be, either, things that are the most important that actually provide money to the company. So that could be sales processes, so on the phones or, hosting seminar events. That could be doing, copies or, even consulting with the sales guys or my marketing team. Or, even just running consults with paying clients. So those are the biggest time frames. From there, I typically leave from 12 to about 2 o'clock as a miscellaneous time frame and a lunch time frame. And that's where I jump back on social media to double check I haven't missed anyone's messages, emails, have lunch, have a bit of a timeout, or if I need to run anywhere, that's where I can go out and get picking up stuff or doing the little things like that throughout the day before ripping back into some more high leverage activities for the next 3 hours of the evening before doing an end of day wrap up. So it really just comes down to understanding, what is your priorities, what is your most important task and focus for the day, and then putting those into 2 to 3 hour blocks either side of your day before pretty much at the start of the day and actually end the day, so that way you're executing morning and evening of the days. And then again, just understanding what are your commitments. So, if you've got kids, kids always have to go to school, so you basically pencil in all of your commitments and then you work around those commitments. And that's why I typically don't sleep, because I'm always working. And again, I have no reason to really sleep. I'm in a prime time to work as hard as I can and set myself up for the future where I don't have to, and then I can sleep as long as I want. So on the days where I'm a bit more tired, I'll go, this task isn't necessary, so I'll have a bit more sleep. But, in the times where the pressure's on, then, sleep is definitely reduced. So it all comes down to, your priorities, how badly you want it. Is the work even a priority, or is it just miscellaneous stuff that can be wait? The biggest thing that I kind of look at is looking at, important and urgent tasks. As a CEO, it's very important that you focus on the important and urgent tasks. And then if you have staff or something, typically the not important and not urgent task, or the important and not urgent task can go to the staff and be delegated. but your task is to focus on the most important things as a CEO and continue to lead the team. So that's what you must do first.
Do you find you're as productive, like with less sleep?
To be honest, sometimes it does have an effect. But again, coming down to the health and fitness side of things, I understand my body very well. So, if I am exhausted, for example, last week and the week before that, I've done consecutive, I think I've done about, 5 to 6 nights of barely any sleep. And by the end of it, you start to, get quite drained. So, on the days where I just don't have that energy, I kind of limit my caffeine dose between 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo body weight. So, being 110, that's from 330 to 660 milligrams of caffeine per day. If I'm starting to need more than that, then what I typically do if I'm struggling to stay awake, I work for a solid 5 hours and then I'll take a power nap for 20 minutes at the end of the 5-hour break. And then I go again for another 5 hours. Typically, I'll have a caffeine hit and I can soldier through. If I'm working into the night, I'll typically have like a lower caffeine hit and just have a coffee. But again, sometimes if I need to work throughout the night and I'm getting tired again, a little 20-minute power nap after a 5-hour interval is one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I've heard napping like in short intervals of that. It's actually pretty effective.
Yeah, so basically just reducing your window. So, like 4 hours for me, 4 to 6 hours per night is a great sort of mark. Yeah. And then, you can fill the day with 2 half-hour naps or 5-hour windows. Basically, the best way that I've kind of regulated my body is understanding, you're trying to get the best out of your body and being as most efficient as possible. So, if I'm working and I'm just not focused, there is 0 point of working anymore. You know what I mean? So if I'm just not focusing, I can't check into my work, I'm just distracted, my head's all over the place, I'm not thinking, I'm having all these tabs open and I just can't get any task done, then I'm like, all right, get up, go have a lay down for 20 minutes, go put your head down for 20 minutes, come back and you'll be fresh. So typically in those times, like when I'm not focusing and not in the zone, that's when I go, okay, you need to go and have a nap. On the times where you're just a little bit tired, you can push through. Sometimes I'll go, okay, just have a bit of caffeine and you can soldier through. But the best thing is, either get moving or have a nap and then get going back into it.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. So your business is Purpose Nutrition, Purpose Fitness. For some, and it's all founded around finding your purpose, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
For someone who hasn't found their purpose in life yet, what do you think would be the best way for them to seek that out?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer that purpose will always find you. Purpose is our defining right in life. And that's kind of how it happened with me. I kind of found my purpose through the avenues of health and fitness. And that's what I sort of encourage is people, you're never ever going to find your purpose and you're never going to ever, find what fulfills you if you're unhappy and you're not healthy. It's like, people, I often relate back to relationships because it's a very common thing for people to understand. But, it's like, if you're single and you're desperate for love and you feel lonely and you're trying to fill a void and you go chasing for people and chasing for relationships, typically you're going to get a bad relationship. You're either going to get hurt, you're going to get rejected, or, you're going to settle for less than what you deserve. And I see it far too often and people just, get content with something that, they don't really, aren't really happy with. And that's the same thing in life. When people aren't happy, they just settle for the average. They just go, this will do. They don't have any enlightenment in their life. Yeah. When people are their best version of themselves, that is when everything in life will flourish for them. So my purpose in life was to give people an avenue and basically a platform to unlock the potential of success in their life. So I'm a big believer that everything will follow when you are healthy and you are well in yourself. So that comes down to mindset and that comes down to your health and fitness. So the best thing that people can do is getting back into, getting healthy and then training their mind, understanding themselves, so doing a lot of self-development, so understanding their traits, understanding their personality, understand what makes them them. And if they can improve their headspace, so, typically most people that don't have a purpose or can't find something or doesn't find anything that lights them up, typically they're not happy within themselves and how they feel about themselves. So that's why they don't generate those energies. So I think the best thing and the best advice that people can do is if you do not know what your purpose is, don't rush it. It's like, you can't go and, rush a relationship. It'll find you when the time is right, but you've got to then go and work on yourself in the meantime. So, start creating routines for yourself. Get into the habits of training. It doesn't always have to be gym or bodybuilding. Just get moving. Go for a run. Be active. Focus on some positive mindset, reduce stresses, improve your mental strength so that way you can handle pressure. All of those kind of skill sets. And I think when you start to work on yourself and you start to focus on improvement and betterment, then you'll start to then tie the links of, what actually excites you, because you're going to start to generate a lot more of those emotions as well. So that's my best advice for people that don't know what their purpose is. It's something that can't be rushed, and it will find you. I guess the biggest thing is always your purpose is something that gives you fulfillment. You don't need motivation. It's fulfillment.
Yeah. Something you could do without maybe when time passes really fast when you're doing it. You don't realize time's passing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As like, for example, you ask how do I do it with not sleeping? It's a purpose for me. It's something that I don't need motivation. I'll do it regardless, and I'll do it to the day I die. It's something that you actually want to do. It's fulfillment. So it's something that gives you energy and feeds you. So that's why I call it the defining right of us as individuals.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. So what would you say is the best, most satisfying thing and the worst thing about being an entrepreneur?
Can you re-ask the question?
So what would you say is the best thing and the worst thing about being a business owner, an entrepreneur?
Oh, there's so many good things about being an entrepreneur. I absolutely love it. But it's not for everyone, and I will say that straight away. The best thing is, like, you can do whatever you want. And there is nothing that can stop you, and there's no boundaries in your world. As an entrepreneur, and that's something that I've done, that's why I've created so many companies. I find something, I find a problem, I do it. If I want to do something, I do it. And I do it. That's why I've created so many companies. I found a problem, and I'm like, we need this. I'm doing it. Let's go start a company. Here's the model. Let's go. So, there's no boundaries. There's no limiting beliefs. You are your own boss. You do what you want. And when I say you're your own boss, it doesn't mean you get to be lazy. But you get to let your mind go free, and you don't have a limiting capacity on what you can do, what your work threshold is. You have no limits. The sky is the limit. So, the best thing about being an entrepreneur is you can be yourself, and you can represent yourself through, you can feed yourself through, your staff, through the business missions, through anything that you do. I think in terms of the worst thing about being an entrepreneur is no one's going to understand you. And that's the hardest thing.
Okay.
Is you're going to be very misunderstood. No one's going to understand you. Sorry, I just had Siri pop up. So no one's going to understand you, and people are going to be, they'll typically, in my time, a lot of people misunderstood me, that they see me as a threat, or, they just don't understand. I'm not like everyone else, so it's very hard, but they typically will associate you with a tag. They'll associate with a certain label, or they'll start spitting hate just due to you being different, and that's completely fine. I'm an individual that doesn't get really affected by people's thoughts and opinions. They're entitled to that. But the biggest thing is, no one's going to understand you, and you have to learn to be okay with that. You have to just accept that people are going to have their opinions, and people aren't going to understand you. You're going to be misunderstood. Even going to social events, for example, your brain as an entrepreneur is just so on all the time. It's just so switched on. And as an entrepreneur, you level up in your skill sets and in terms of your knowledge. So, when you're out at social settings and you're talking to people who have no idea anything about the business world, or anything about finance, anything about self-development, anything about, what it is like to run a company, what it's like to run staff, and you try and communicate. It's just, it's typically, for me, when I have conversations with people who aren't in the same field or sort of environment or nature, it can be debilitating in the mood, in the energy, and for them, it's probably like, they don't understand. So it's, a very hard thing. So you can often feel disconnected and a bit lonely, but you have to be, and again, that comes down to, knowing yourself and knowing what you bring to the table and being content in your own space. You're not going to be, like someone said on my podcast the other week, it's like, be Nutella. Not everyone loves Nutella, but they don't change. So,
is that Marmite? Nutella?
Yeah, like nut. Yeah, Nutella's like the nut butter. Yeah, the chocolate nut
really?
butter.
Oh,
But
I
like
love Nutella.
how
Yeah.
like if you have all these different every brand that comes out, they're always rolling out different flavors and they're always changing things. Nutella's one of the most successful spreads in the world, and they haven't changed it once. They haven't changed the packaging, they haven't changed the flavor code, they haven't changed it. They're just that's it. And I think it's only like 13 to 17% of people that actually like Nutella around the world. So but they are the most successful with a very small percentage.
Okay. Oh, that's surprising, man. That's great taste and spread. I
Yeah.
hate Marmite. Marmite tastes like shit.
Much like the Vegemite. Hey.
Yeah, Vegemite as well. Yeah, it's not good. So, did becoming a dad change the way you approach life?
Mate, nothing can prepare you and can change the world like a kid can. Having your own children is one of the best gifts on the world. Look, they're very challenging, but honestly, my daughter was the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's very easy for someone like myself to say that, and then someone who doesn't have kids would go, "Oh yeah," but when you have it, and my parents used to do it all the time, they'd be like, "Oh, you just wait. Oh, you just wait. You just wait." And I remember the time that I had my kid, I was like, I called my parents and I was like, "You were right." Like, I've called her multiple times, like, "You were right about this. You were right about that."
Yeah.
But you never understand until you go through it. But having your own children and having my daughter was one of the best things. I think a man never truly matures, even probably a female too, but I can't speak on behalf of a man, given I'm the man.
Yeah.
But a man never would really mature until having a child. I think that's where the greatest level of maturity comes from, is when you have children.
Yeah.
But my daughter has taught me so many skills and life lessons. She teaches you not to be selfish. She teaches you, how to think differently, how to not think about yourself. She makes you think deeper into your decision making. Everything I do is, with a greater purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about the now. It's about a greater purpose. It's about everything. It's also, certain things. It's about people who you network with. It's people who you're around. The way you portray yourself on social media, because everything comes back to your daughter or to your child. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's changed a lot. She's changed a lot in the way that I do business as well, the way I handle certain situations, the way I communicate, the way I carry myself as an individual. She's been one of the best lessons in my life. So, But again, like I said, people can't fathom that until they go through it themselves. But no, honestly, it's been one of the best gifts. But I will put it out there, they are definitely challenging. For example, we had a sales campaign that went off the other day, and we had 100 leads to call in one day.
Yeah.
And trying to do that with her, I was like, I cannot do this. This is impossible.
Wow.
So, on the days where I look after her, I have 2 days where I take off work. I'm typically working all night.
Okay.
That way. Yeah. That's a big thing as well. Kids will teach you what life is all about.
Right.
That's a big thing. You know what I mean? I never took time off. I never thought I could.
Yeah.
But having a child will teach you the importance of life and teach you, it's not about you, and that they do need you. They need you in their life, and you got to be present.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. So what are some challenges you faced along your journey? How did you overcome them?
Oh, gosh, how long do we have on the podcast?
We got a couple more left. We got a little bit more time.
Honestly, there's so many challenges. I guess probably one of the biggest challenges is, patience is massive. Understanding that this journey of entrepreneurship and business is its journey. And I think with the social media world that we live in now, that it makes it look so much easier than what it is. Entrepreneurship is extremely hard. It's very, very hard. And the social media world makes it look all glamorous. But I think the biggest thing, and the biggest challenges that I've had was patience and understanding that not everything has to be done like tonight and overnight. And obviously me starting a lot of different companies and trying to scale them, getting access to cash flows and learning it's a game. Business is a game. You got to learn how to uncover and how to tap into, new markets, how to get loans, how to get, credit when you're nobody, when you're nothing. I started from a young age, so, credit score was not even existed.
Yeah.
So to get generating from a young age, and you have no backings, no houses, you know what I mean? So it's like, how do you build yourself up to a level where you can get funding, where you can get backing, getting yourself exposed out into, investors, stuff like that. So there's a lot of challenges, but I think the biggest challenge was understanding the game, and it never changes. Like it's always changing the game. It's just a process of learning yourself, being patient, and again, there's always a different challenge of every day. I don't think it's ever going to stop. So but I guess the biggest challenge that I've ever faced is trying to we have a 10-year goal, and the 10-year goal is a multi-million-dollar goal. And it's like how do you get yourself from zero to multi-million dollars and accessing a couple of million in capital from a banker or from an investor or something like that. And that's a bigger game. So when you start to think about the long term, and how to think about how you're going to generate that, everyone can talk about for example, everyone can talk about, oh yeah, that's $1 million or this is that. It's like, have you ever held $1 million? Have you ever had that in your bank account? Have you ever accessed that? How would you access that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, when you look at, trying to grow, and I'm not talking grow, it's a small business. We're talking about growing multiple different companies in a massive group that's going to be a multi-million-dollar success. And when you kind of look at that scale, it's a whole nother game. It's a whole nother game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess the biggest challenge is, trying to navigate each stage of growth. How do you get to that level?
Yeah.
And again, another thing as well is like, overcoming the challenges and, looking at delegation, overcoming, what systems you need to put in place, what staff members you need to put in. It's a never ending game, what's the best contact? There's so many different challenges that come from business. So it's like not one challenge that's been hard, but I guess the biggest challenge was the game and understanding how the game works, and learning to be patient with the game. Yeah. That's what it is. It's a game and you've got to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, because most people, if they don't have the right role models in their life, they're not taught that. So figuring out must be like a maze.
And that's another thing as well. Like, I thank you very much for saying that. It's what we've been taught. Everything that I learned in school, everything that we've been taught from my parents, and that's nothing against my parents or any parent at all. But we'll everything that we know now is what we've been taught and brought into. So trying to change your reality and look on things of life on a whole different spectrum, you know what I mean? It's incredibly hard. And that's what I mean. It's a game. You've got to look at things in different perspectives and let go of your attachments to emotions and to your beliefs and to what you know, and be prepared to learn something completely different. Yeah. It's like, when you start to study the tax codes and start to look at, the richest people in the world, when you start to look at those kind of people and start to understand and start to break down how they generate what they do, you start to think very differently. And you start to think how corrupt the system is of what we've learned. And now being in the position where I am and the things I'm learning, and trust me, I need to learn a lot more. But just the knowledge around financial education is massive. And now I know why people struggle so much in life, and why we always living paycheck to paycheck, and why the middle class is struggling. You know what I mean? It's just exactly what we've been taught, and trying to change that reality of what we've been taught is extremely hard. And that's where, again, self-development comes down to being big and being able to tap in of, being prepared to take on new things. And a lot of people can't take on new things, which is why they never adapt and change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that with inflation, that gap is just growing bigger and bigger. People living paycheck to paycheck, and then the super ultra high net worth individuals who kind of buy up everything. It's like, that seems to be the way things are panning out.
Exactly. And you see this massive divide that's happening, and you see, for example, like the taxes, for example, people want to tax the rich. It's like the rich are always going to avoid the taxes because they're smart. And the taxes were originally brought in to tax the rich, and guess what? They end up ruining the middle class.
Yeah.
So, and the middle class was the one that implemented it and brought it in. If you look at the history of the books of the tax codes, the middle class was the one that brought it in to tax the rich. The rich escaped it because they're so smart. And that's why the rich are rich, because they're smart. That's what they're taught, and it's how they've learned. Yeah. And the middle class, we just believe that the government and everything else is here to help us. When it's like, you gotta, when you open your eyes to the reality and start to learn new things, it's a completely different world. And I'm learning so much along the journey of entrepreneurship. And that's one thing that's a great thing about entrepreneurship is it teaches you to learn so much more.
Yeah. Have you ever had to, I'm sure you have multiple times, have you ever had to pivot or adjust your business strategy?
We're always pivoting. We're always pivoting. Sometimes, like, let's use COVID, for example, right? We thought we were going to open up a chain of, supplement stores in every city, every state. We actually had a second store on the way, and the next, boom, COVID came. We had shop fit out ready to go. Next, our whole business model was gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's always times you've got to pivot. For example, in January of 2021, we thought COVID was done. But for our international supply business, it was only just beginning. And I did say this to a lot of people. I said, you have not seen the brink of COVID yet. It's going to backlash us hard. And it did. It backlashed us hard. And we had to pivot. We had no stock coming in. We couldn't supply anything. So where does that money come from? You have to always pivot. And business is always about pivoting. If you can't learn to pivot, that's where you lose. We almost lost, and we're very lucky that we were able to pivot and find a solution out of it. It sounds like it was easy, but it wasn't easy. But we're always pivoting, we're always moving.
Yeah. And
you got to again, it comes down to not being emotional. You can't be emotional in your decision making. You know what I mean? You can't be fixated. It's always good to have a vision, always good to have a plan. But guess what? Those plans are always going to change because you don't know what's going to come up in the future. You have no idea what's coming. So, to be able to go, okay, this is what we had, but it's okay because this, unforeseen circumstances has arisen. I'm not holding on to my emotions. We can now pivot and change the course of direction. For example, you've got to learn to change because guess what? Look at TikTok that's come out, for example. People are always changing, and now with ChatGPT coming out, it's changing the game again. So there's always these new innovations. We've got robots coming out. It's going to change the game again. So there's always new things that are going to come out that we have no idea or, might not necessarily be prepared for. So you've got to be able to let go of the emotions, be prepared to change the game plan. Yeah. For sure.
So, adaptation is key. So I feel like there is a lot of misinformation out there regarding diet and exercise. There's people preaching keto, there's people preaching carnivore, which is kind of keto, I guess. Veganism. So how can someone prevent themselves from listening to the wrong advice, which may be detrimental to their health and long-term goals, and actually get the right advice? Or is there right advice? Is it different for everyone?
There's no such thing as right and wrong in the game. There's no right and wrong. If you choose to keto, you're going to get results, but it might not be the best. You know what I mean? If you do carnivores or carnivism, you know what I mean? It's not going to be the best, but you're still going to get results, or you're still going to get that adaptation of the diet. It's about understanding it comes down to understanding yourself and where you want to go, what's your goal.
Yeah. And
then being able to pivot from, okay, here's our goal. This is going to be the best to get us to where we need to be. And that's the biggest thing. It's about understanding what's best for you to optimize you as quick as possible to your goal. Now, for the average person, they're not that clear on their goal. Just to lose weight isn't a clear goal. So the best advice I can give people is keep it simple, stupid. It's as simple as that. I often do like to look back at, I think we've gone very much off path of the standard. But, the Australian food standards, it's not the best, but they encourage everything. There's dairy still in there, there's carbs still in there, there's fat still in there, there's meat still in there. It's just keep it simple, stupid. All of these foods have been around for years. So just keep it simple, stupids.
Yeah.
All right? And it's like, people complain about all of this certain food. It's a simple rule. It's like, reduce the shit, reduce the processed stuff. My number one rule was always like, reduce the processed stuff. Just keep it clean, keep it healthy, and focus on getting good quality protein, carbs, and fats in every meal.
Yeah.
And eat frequently, because the biggest thing I see is people don't eat. Yeah. So then what they do is they binge eat, and then they binge eat on sugar and all this processed packet stuff because it's convenient, and then they wonder why they're getting fat.
Yeah. See it all the time.
That's all the time. So
that's why obesity is massive.
Exactly. So just eating more frequently will keep you fuller for longer. It will prevent binging episodes occurring, which will then prevent body dysmorphia issues occurring. Block out all of the news of the fads, because anyone that's advertising a fad is a scammer. And just keep it simple, stupid. Keep all of the food in there, because guess what? You need, dairy, unless you're lactose intolerant or allergic or something like that. But, allergies aside, if you've got allergies, well, then you'll follow your allergy restrictions. But keeping those aside, just keeping good grains, keeping your greens in there, lots of fruits. Hydration is king. Keeping a good sources of protein in every meal. But my biggest thing is keep protein, carbs, and fats in the diet in every meal, and you'll be fine, because you'll get a nice, satisfied, nutrition-dense food. If you want to go, and again, that's just for the generalized population, because guess what? They're not going to be really too crazy about getting here as quick as possible and stuff like that. Most of the generalized population just want to get healthy and just lose a bit of weight, but they still want to enjoy life. So if you just keep it simple, stupid, and follow the Australian food standards, you can still enjoy life and just eat frequently, so you're not binging, and getting fat because you just can't control yourself. And that's the best way. It's just like figure out the problem and find the solution. If you're eating so much shit at night time, well then eat more throughout the day, because your body's starving. And a big thing that I tell people now, if they want to listen into it, is like, people don't eat breakfast, but it's like, we tell our kids breakfast is the most important meal of the day. How many mums told you that when you were eating your food? Breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and it is, because all of our hormonal adaptations and all of our chemical responses that control our metabolism are at the highest and most efficient first thing in the morning. So people are not eating all day, down-regulating those hormones and responses, and then shoving it all at night when it's less effective. Eating a lot more food volume in the morning will actually prevent you eating so much shit at night time, and you'll utilize everything a lot more effectively. Now, I'm not saying don't restrict your appetite at night time, just eat evenly across the day. My biggest thing is eat every 2 to 3 hours upon waking to bedtime. So if you're awake, for 15 hours a day, guess what? That's 5 meals for every 3 hours. So just break it down as a simple rule of thumb. It doesn't have to be massive meals, just portions over the day. That's the simplest advice you can take. Now, if we're going to be a bit more specific and apply it to a bit more athletes or people with a bit more serious goals, then what I would suggest is setting the goal and then working with a specialist towards that goal. So working with someone who has proven results, who has shown to get people to that result as quick as possible. Looking at the repeated transaction of people and how long they've been in the space for too. The best advice as well is, if you're looking at a coach, is look at what they do as an individual. Do they practice what they preach? Are they consistently generating good results with clientele? Do they get consistent year after year results with that clientele? Do they get results with themselves? And are they constantly up-leveling themselves in their skill set? If they do, then you've got a good coach. If they're not, then you might want to reconsider your decision there. But as far as that, my best advice is stay clear of forums and fake websites, and go to a reliable, qualified specialist in the field of what you're trying to get.
I always think hiring an expert who actually is really advanced and knowledgeable in that field is like the best way. And not just in fitness, just in anything. Like anything you want to get great at, hire an expert, and it just shortcuts that whole learning curve and takes you to that next level.
100%. And again, another thing as well, like one thing I learned, like we don't work with Gen Pop anymore. We're athlete specific only, but the biggest thing that I saw all the time was, if I was working with a Gen Pop, they'll be taking in and coming to me about questions about things they saw on the internet. It's like, if you're going to work with someone, follow the proven systems and methods that they have. Go all in. So say, for example, you sign up for a 12-week program with a coach that does fat loss transformations or something like that. Go all in on that coach and give it all you've got and follow their exact word. Block out the noise, remove distractions for that full 12 weeks. Like, people go into these things and it's like you wouldn't go into a new relationship looking at all of the fresh meat aside you and thinking, oh, which one's going to be best? No, because if you're committing to someone, you're committing to someone, So why do we apply the same sort of, different philosophies when it comes to nutrition working with a coach? If you're going to work with someone, whether it's a coach or a business coach or someone else, they've got a system that's proven results. They've done it year after year and consistent. So follow exactly what they say, because the system will clearly work. And a lot of the times I saw clients bagging coaches, but typically when they come over to you, they're the problem. And it's very quick to identify it's not the other coaches that have been the problem, it's the client. So if you're going through coach after coach after coach, maybe it's you that can't stick to a program. So the biggest thing is if you sign up with someone, remove the distractions and just focus on what you have to do. Do it, commit it, and give it all you got. If you don't get results in 12 weeks, then move on. You tried. See you later. You know what I mean?
That's amazing how many people can't stick to something for 90 days. It's crazy.
We're always looking for the next and quickest thing, man.
Yeah, we are. So, bro, we're coming towards the end of the show. It's been awesome having you on. I won't keep you any longer because I'm sure you're very busy. Where can everyone find you before you go?
Yeah, so you guys can jump onto my personal Instagram. So that's just _Jarrod Miller, as someone else took the original Jarrod Miller. Then also you can follow our business pages. So just type in Purpose Fitness or Purpose Nutritions. And we do also have a YouTube. But if you jump onto my personal Instagram, we do have a link that links to all of the podcasts, all of the YouTubes, all of the business pages, and the websites as well. So the quickest way would be jumping through my personal Instagram and finding the links in the bio there.
Sweet. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast, guys. If you liked it, share it around, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.